You all are rocking. And if you didn't get it quite, you're in the wheelhouse. And I promise you will always get it correct after this. Aha. Outstanding. All right. So let me tell you how I solved it. All right. So I'm at my category T16. I know I'm in the correct location. I know that I have to, it told me T16 is what it gave me, not T16.2. I kind of gave that away. But laterality, I have to decode for the correct ear, and it's left ear. So left ear is T16.2. That's 4 characters. Next to the code, to the left of the code, we have a blue box, and that blue box says, hey, this needs to be 7 characters. So how are we going to make this 4 character code 7 characters? Yes, the 7th character extender box is above. If we add that to the code, it would be invalid because the indicators in this box are only to be placed at the 7th character space. So this is how we coded. All right. T16.2 is our subcategory. We have to place an X. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 characters. Another X, that's 6. And finally, our 7th character extender, A, for initial encounter. And X marks the spot. Okay, coders. Who had an aha moment? I love them. You know why? Because when you get it, right? And you remember it, right? Outstanding. Okay, now you know how to code these 7th character um, extenders. You know how to use the extender box. You know how to look up codes. You know how to identify first listed code. You all are rocking. But we've been skipping around the subject. We've been skipping around this sequela, right? And we kind of talked about it, and I think in our lectures, we didn't really go in depth. We didn't really explain it as thoroughly as we should, but I'm going to do that today. All right. So, sequela. What is a sequela? Better yet, does anybody know what all of these movies have in common? Type in the chat. Do you know what these movies have in common? Yes, yes, yes. Outstanding. I love it. They're saying sequel happens after the first, action movies. Someone said it was a cute one. Somebody said action movies. I love it. I love it. I love it. All right, these are sequels, right? Sequel sounds like sequela. Indeed, they have the same meaning. Just like a movie sequel, there had to be a movie that came before, that came first. So if you're looking at Superman 4, there had to be a Superman 1, 2, and 3, right? Die Hard 2 had a Die Hard 1. Jaws the Revenge had Jaws. Caddyshack 2 came after Caddyshack. So in other words, in order for a sequel to occur, you have to have an initial or something that comes before it. And just like a sequel, a movie sequel, a sequela can only occur after an initial illness or injury. I'm going to let that marinate for a second. And while I'm doing that, I want to tell you, did I name this young lady? What's her name? I don't know. We'll give her name Barbara. Barbara with a broken leg. So Barbara is having a great time in college. She went on a hayride, fell off the hayride, broke her leg. And this broken leg has what we call a late effect. 10 years later, Barbara walks with a limp. Yeah. So the broken leg is the acute injury. It happened then, acutely. It happened first. But 10 years later, she walked with a limp, and that limp is the sequelae or the late effect. And so I just want you to remember that the sequelae or the late effect is the residual effect after the acute phase or injury. And remember, there's no time limit on when a late effect code can be used or that late effect indicator can be used. And that's all I want to say. But I also want to draw your attention to the guidelines because I started telling you about the guidelines, but I want to show you. This is guideline number 10, General Coding Guideline 10, sequelae. And sequelae is a residual effect after the acute phase of an illness. Or after it has terminated, after that acute phase has terminated. There's no time limit on when a sequelae code can be used, and the residual may be apparent early, such as cerebral infarction. So that's a stroke. Or it may occur months or years later, like Barbara. All right. And they give you some examples of sequelae: scar formation resulting from a burn. We call that contracture as well. Deviated septum, deviated septum due to nasal fracture. Infertility due to tubal occlusion from old tuberculosis. So these are some examples of sequelae or sequela. And also, this is how you code it. Coding of sequela generally requires two codes sequenced in the following order. They're telling you how to code it. The condition or nature of the sequela is sequenced first. Then the sequela code is sequenced second, right? So the condition or the nature of the sequela is sequenced first, followed by the sequela code. That seventh character, S, is second. So let's go ahead and show you Barbara. So the condition that she has now, that limp, that is the condition or the nature of the sequela. That will be sequenced first, followed by the sequela code. It would look like this. So if Barbara went to the doctor today, You would code her limp first, R26.89, followed by that injury code, S82.90XS for sequela. Are you with me, coders? All right. So I have an exercise, all right? I just kind of want you to understand sequelae just a little more, okay? All right. So sequelae comes after the initial phase of an illness or injury. And another name for sequelae is late effect. So on the left, I have the late effects. So this is where we are today. This is this is the condition of the patient on the left, and it results from an initial injury or phase. So if a patient has aphasia, then we have to look to the left to see what could have been the initial phase. So aphasia is the inability to speak. So doesn't spinal cord injury cause that? Third-degree burns cause that? Does CVA or stroke cause that? Or diabetes mellitus? Oh, sorry. Cause it. Or fractured leg, which causes aphasia? Go ahead, type your answer in the chat. Or what is the initial phase? I guess that's the appropriate way. Absolutely. CVA stroke. Outstanding. What about paraplegia? What is the initial phase or the acute phase? Absolutely. Injury to the spinal cord. What about walking with a limp? Outstanding. Fractured leg. What about scar contracture? Yes, you all are quick. Some of you getting it all in there. That's what I'm talking about. Third-degree burns and peripheral neuropathy. Yeah, diabetes mellitus. Outstanding. Outstanding. So here it is. They're in order. So the moral of the story, the late effect occurs after the acute phase. And the way you sequence, remember the guideline says you generally requires 2 codes. The nature of the sequela first, or that condition, illness, or injury goes first, and then the sequela code. So now we have a scenario. All right. So you'll need to determine what is the sequela and what is the sequela code. Or I'll tell you, what is the nature of the sequela and what is the sequela code? Let me change that. What is the nature? It may not update, but that's what that's saying. All right, so, let's go back. Byron was involved in a motorcycle accident 3 years prior, where he had sustained a fracture of the lower left leg. Today, he presents with complaints of chronic pain and weakness in the lower left leg. What is the correct code for this encounter? Okay, coders! What is the nature of the sequelae? And what is the sequelae code? Go ahead, type your answers in the chat. What is the, just say what it is. You don't have to code it. All right, so the nature of the sequela, so this is what resulted from the initial phase, is the chronic pain and weakness in the lower left leg, right? Yeah, so chronic pain and weakness. And the sequela code is that injury code with the sequela indicator S. All right, so we're going to go ahead and code it out. This is how you would do it. So you would look up the term sequelae. Yes, there is a section in your index that says sequela. Sequela of what? Fracture, right? So what they tell you to do is code to injury with seventh character S. All right, so we're going to go to the fracture of the lower leg, S82.9, and we have some more characters to code for. And I'm going to go right to the tabular list, S82.9. And this is unspecified fracture of lower left leg. All right, so this is a seventh character requirement. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 codes here. We know we have to elongate it, and we're going to have to put the X in. And just as a reminder, you have an X right here, your seventh character extender box. And also, we need our sequela, right? And I think I'm covering up the sequela, the S here. And this is so unfortunate. I wish that would go away. I don't know how to make it go away. But this is S. In your seventh character extender box, it says sequela, and your code will look like this, S82.92X, right? So because this is the sequela code, we know that's sequenced after, oh, there it is. You can see your sequela. It's sequenced after the nature of the sequela or the illness. And we have chronic pain as well as weakness of the lower left leg, followed by your sequela code. And that's what it would look like. You all are rocking and rolling. Okay, coders. So do you understand that? Good deal. And it makes sense because why would you code a sequela, an old injury first with a sequela, right? Because it has to, you're not being treated for that. You're being treated for the nature. That is the chief reason for the encounter, right? Today, anyway. All right. So now I have another scenario. This is a quickie. Yeah, it's a quickie. All right. Of the following, which answer best describes the encounter? A, M25.611, L90.50, T22.051A, B, L90.50, T22.051A, C, T22.051S, L90.50, and D, L90.50, T22.051S. Okay, coders, can we eliminate anything on site? I think so. Look at those 7 characters. Just saying. All right, maybe not. Let's read. Maria, a 30-year-old woman, visits the doctor's office due to a limited range of motion in her right arm following a severe burn injury 6 months ago. The physician diagnoses the patient with scar contracture of the right arm. To address the issue, the doctor recommends a series of physical therapy sessions and refers her to a specialist for possible surgical intervention. Of the following, which best describes the encounter? All right, coders, we already said we're talking about sequela. So, coders, is this a sequela situation? Go ahead, type your answers in the chat. Yes, it is. So we need to know what is the nature of the sequela. That will be sequenced first, followed by her sequela code. Coders, we can identify just based on that 7th character, we can already identify the correct answer. Go ahead and try and answer it. Just looking at the codes. Sequela code has an S. Right. Some people are getting it. All right. So it says that we have to have 2 codes. You sequence the condition or the nature of the sequela first, followed by the sequela code, that 7th character code with the 7th character S. So the 7-character code or that initial injury, it tells you to code that injury with the 7th character S. So if we're looking, A is not even coding for a sequela. It's coding for an acute injury. So too is B. And if we're looking at C is sequencing the sequela code before the nature of the illness. And D is our answer. I just thought I would just show you that because it's really important for you to see how they should be sequenced. Somebody said, I think D. No, you knew D. Look at that. Outstanding, outstanding, outstanding. All right, so I hope you all are going to I2MC because this is not the I2MC, the I'm tap. I can't keep track of all of these.
Thanks for tuning in, and until next time, happy coding!